So really excited about all of that. Also very excited about this series, Church in the Wild. If you were here with us last week, you heard us talk about this. And really what we're doing with this series is we're talking about who we are as a church and what we do as a church and how we go about that. And last week we talked about how we really need to offer community, not just to each other, but to the people that we're reaching. You see, the reason I talked about the building, the reason we're making this leap of faith and we're going into a permanent facility is because people matter to God. And if they matter to God, they matter to us. And we see that as a tool that God is giving us, that we want to leverage that and we want to use that. So we need to offer community and we need to offer small groups, not just for the people that are here, but for all the people that we're going to reach. So we asked all of you to consider, to pray about signing up to being a small group leader. And this is awesome. We had over 25 people sign up to be small group leaders. Isn't that awesome? You guys are amazing. If you weren't here last week, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to it and then just go ahead and sign up. You know what? Sign up now to be a small group leader and you can listen to it later. So it was just a great Sunday. And we had a lot of fun, but we realized here's this great, amazing thing that God is giving us in this permanent facility. I mean, something that really we haven't earned. We don't deserve it. God is blessing us with this, and this gives us a whole lot. I mean, this is 20,000 square feet, 14 acres, visibility from I-35. This is a great gift, and it was the great theologian, and you guys have probably heard of this guy. He's a really wise, great theologian. His name's Uncle Ben, and he said this: with great power comes great responsibility. Right? Do we remember that from Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. So we're given this great power. We're given this great gift in this building. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of responsibility that we have to step up to the plate and say, God, if you're going to entrust us with this, we want to be faithful with this. So I'm talking about this idea that we're going to be the church in the wild. We're going to be the ones kind of going back to really almost like when we first started. You see, when this church first started, it was actually 12 people sitting in a living room. And we sat around and we realized, hey, listen, we have to go into the world to reach the people, and we're going to live like missionaries. We're going to be the ones that start this. And we moved down here, and the team grew to about 20 to 25 people, and they kind of became known as the launch team. And this launch team, they did everything. They did a little bit of everything. And that's why I was saying, listen, last week I said, you are the new launch team. All of you here, if you're a regular at Icon Church, you're the new launch team. It's you that are going to be the ones that step up. The reason I asked you to lead a small group is because when I looked at the launch team, I said, hey, listen, guys, you need to lead small groups. Every single one of us. So if you're a regular here, today's for you. If you consider Icon Church home, if this is your home church, if you are a part of Icon Church, today's for you. But listen, if you're just a guest here, if you're just checking out Icon, I want you to see a snapshot, a little bit of who we are, a little bit of our core values and what we believe and why we believe it. But then also, even beyond that, maybe you're coming to Icon Church today. Maybe somebody invited you and you came, and you're not sure about this whole God thing. You're not sure about this whole Jesus thing. In fact, maybe you used to go to church. You're one of those like used to be Christians. Like I used to believe that. I used to go, but you quit because you were burned by the church. Or maybe when you came in, the church wasn't loving and welcoming and you felt like you didn't belong. I want to challenge you, maybe, just maybe the thing that turned you off to church wasn't something that is wrong with Christianity, is wrong with Jesus, but something that was wrong with the execution. And what we're going to talk about today is that execution. Those commands that Jesus has given us and how we are to live in this world. And again, this idea of church in the wild, it's what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to interact in the world. So today, the big question that we want to talk about is, what is a church supposed to do? I mean, what is it for those people that experienced church and said, you know what, this isn't for me? What is it that was lacking there that made them come to that conclusion? I think all of us have friends or family that have experienced that, right? That they say, you know what, I'll never go to church. And you're going, man, but it's not, it doesn't have to be like that. Man, just because you had a bad experience doesn't mean that problem is a problem you have with Jesus. Or that problem you have is really with the church. It was just that experience. So if that's true, then what is the church supposed to do? I mean, what is it that we're called to do? What is Jesus asking of every single one of us? And we're going to look someplace today that maybe you might not think that we were going to look. Someplace that maybe you don't read a whole lot, because to be quite honest, if you read through this letter that we're about to read, there's parts of it that are a little weird. We're going to be looking at the book of Revelation. That's what it's called in our Bibles. Maybe you've heard of this before. This is really a letter and kind of a series of letters to churches all around the known world that a pastor by the name of John wrote to these churches. He was getting older and he wasn't able to travel to these churches, so he wrote them these letters and he sent them out. And our culture has kind of understood the book of Revelation as one thing, but we're going to look at this because I think there's some important truths within this letter that we're going to draw out today. But if you hear Revelation and you heard a pastor say, we're going to talk about the book of Revelations, I just wonder how many of you think of this.
Also available from Cloud 10 Pictures.
World peace. It's been a dream ever since Cain looked sideways at Abel.
Peace. In the Middle East. Now that would be a miracle.
A global conspiracy.
International bankers, always the same. Follow the money, honey.
For world domination.
Thousands of years we've waited. Generations. And you have made it possible.
Yes, my friend. Now we are ready.
Until in an instant, the world is changed. Cloud 10 Pictures, in association with Namesake Entertainment, proudly present Kirk Cameron.
This is insane. People don't just disappear.
Brad Johnson.
I know where Mom and Raimi are.
Chelsea Noble.
They're not here. They're not anywhere.
And Clarence Gilliard.
I knew your message. I knew your words.
Left Behind, the movie. The future, as foretold by the Bible, has come to pass.
The rapture, the vanishings, this marks the beginning of the rise of the Antichrist.
So small, so easily manipulated.
And he will confirm a covenant with the many for 7 years.
This marks the beginning of our 7 years of peace.
The end-time prophecy has begun.
The whole world will feel sympathy and love for me. They will follow me wherever I lead them. Because of you.
Left Behind. Seeing is believing.
How many of you, maybe you don't think of like 90s Kirk Cameron Left Behind? How many think of the more recent, like Nick Cage Left Behind? That's right, another absolute blockbuster. Nicolas Cage starred in the remake because they needed to do a remake of Left Behind. Or how many of you, like me, see, again, I grew up in the church. Like I remember like sleeping under pews when I was a kid and like writing on the back of like the offering envelopes and coloring, and that was me. And there was another movie that came out even longer ago, back in the 70s, I believe, late 70s probably, called A Thief in the Night. Has anybody seen A Thief in the... Yes, that's right. Okay, if you have not seen A Thief in the Night, as a child watching the movie A Thief in the Night, I was terrified. Like, absolutely, it should not be allowed to, like, let small children watch this movie. It's loosely based on some of the same things that the Left Behind series was based on. I remember being at a church lock-in, which is just a bad idea in general. But I was at a church lock-in as a child, and we watched the movie Left Behind at night. And I had grown up in the church. I was absolutely a Christian, but I got saved again. Like, I'm like, I want to make sure that my head does not go in a guillotine. I don't know where that's at, but I don't want that to happen to me. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, you're just fine, okay? Just live in ignorance. It's probably better that way. But a lot of times when we think about the book of Revelation, we think about all these, like, end time things and these stories that we've heard, and we hear people talk, and maybe these books, and I'm not saying any of that is not true, but what I'm saying is sometimes when we focus on that too much, we miss some other things that are really important that we can apply to our lives right here and now. I mean, maybe all those things may happen someday, but what I do know is there's things in those letters that apply to those churches that will apply to us right here and now. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're not going to be talking about all those things. We're going to be talking about some things that apply to the people that were written to and how that applies to our lives. Because here's the thing. When John was writing these letters, I've got this sinking suspicion he wasn't thinking, this would make a killer script for a blockbuster. Like, I think this would be a New York Times bestseller. I'm going to go ahead and write it. No, he was writing to real churches that really existed in history, in time, and in space, and in geography. And he was writing these real letters to these churches because he had something to say. And in fact, his letters, in the beginning portion, there were some portions that were really encouraging and then had some really strong indictments. And he was wanting these churches to make these changes because he saw something great in them. But there's some things that they were missing. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be going to look at one of these, a portion of that letter of Revelation written to a church in a city called Laodicea. And I want to put up a map real quick because this is going to be a little important. This is a map of the Lycus River Valley. This is in modern-day Turkey, kind of western Turkey. And this is the city that we're going to be talking about, Laodicea. Now, what's important is there's two other towns kind of made this triangle that were pretty close together. In fact, Laodicea, just about 6 miles north, up kind of this mountain face, is a town called Hierapolis. And this town's going to be really important. We're going to talk about it in a moment. And then about 11 miles to kind of the east-southeast is another city, Colossae. Now, how many of you guys, maybe that one kind of rings a bell because there was another letter written to the church in Colossae called Colossians. And we can find that letter. So there's a church operating here, and there's this church that we know that is operating here. There's also likely a movement of Jesus followers happening in Hierapolis, but this particular letter was written to the church in Laodicea. And what's interesting is there's some things that are happening in this church that this author, this pastor, wants to get at. And let's look real quick at what he says, and then we're going to learn a little bit more about what's going on and see if we can draw something out of that. So we find this in Revelation chapter 3. We're going to read verses 15 and 16. If you have a Bible, you can follow along. We also always put it up here on the screens, or if you have a smartphone, you can download an app called the Bible app made by YouVersion and follow along there. So it says this, I know what you are doing. I know you aren't cold or hot. I wish you were either one or the other, but you are lukewarm. You aren't hot or cold, so I am going to spit you out of my mouth. And this is kind of God speaking to this church through this author, and he's saying, here's what God is saying to you. I know what you're doing, and I know that you're not cold and you're not hot. I wish you were one or the other. I wish you were either hot or cold, but instead you're lukewarm. And because you're lukewarm, if you don't change, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. Now, when I was a child, when I was growing up, what I was taught about this is you shouldn't be a lukewarm Christian. Has anybody heard something similar to that, right? And it came with this kind of like presupposition that God either wants you to be like hot on fire for him, like living for him, or like absolutely cold, running away from him, cold-hearted, but instead you're lukewarm, and that's what God really hates. So God wants you either really far from him or really close to him. And as a kid, that never really made sense to me. It was kind of confusing. I would think that if you're kind of here in the middle, like at least you're trying to listen to what God has to say. And he'd have a chance to get you really hot and on fire for him, but God would rather have me be cold, really far from him? And I wonder if there's maybe something a little more going on. And I believe if you start looking at some of the context of what's going on, and again, because this letter wasn't just written with no context. This letter was written to a real church. And when they hear these things, there's actually a little bit more going on. So let's go back to the map of the Lycus River Valley. And again, we're talking about Laodicea here. And what's interesting, if you stand, you can actually go to the ruins of Laodicea today. And if you stand on the northern side of that town and look to the north, just 6 miles across the river valley, you can see Hierapolis. And what you can see with the naked eye is these springs that kind of go up the side of the mountain. And we've got a picture here. It's white limestone, and you have all of these hot pools. These naturally occurring hot springs within Hierapolis have come up, and there's tons of nutrients and minerals in these springs. And in fact, this has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So you can go even today and go to the hot springs of Hierapolis. And even back then, in the area, in the Mediterranean, Hierapolis was known for these hot springs. And the reason that they were known is because they had this healing power. That if you had this skin condition, It was nothing magical or nothing special, but the minerals that were there, just like some of you might do a mud mask. I don't really understand those things, but whatever. Or you might go, maybe you've heard about in the Dead Sea, they've got mud that makes your skin smooth. Well, people would come to the hot springs in Hierapolis, and skin conditions would be healed. There were even some ways that they would prescribe drinking some of the water, and the nutrients and minerals could heal even stomach conditions. And Hierapolis was known for its health and healing powers, and it was known for its hot springs. So happening just north of Laodicea, you have Hierapolis, and it's known for its hot springs. Well, then, just to the east and south in Colossae, you've got something completely different. If you stand, again, in Laodicea today, and you look to the southeast, it's barely visible, but just behind Colossae, you can see kind of a mountain range, and there's a mountain that's usually snow-covered called Mount Cadmus. And running down Mount Cadmus almost all year are these springs of really cold, refreshing water rushing down the mountainside just past Colossae, and that's what forms the Lycus River Valley. So people, again, all across the Mediterranean, all across the Middle East, back then and today, know that in Colossae, you've got this cold, refreshing water. So if you're traveling across modern-day Turkey, man, if you need to be refreshed, if you need to be reinvigorated, you're going to swing through Colossae because they've got their cold springs there. They've got these cold mountain runoff rushing down. So I want you to do something. I want you to imagine you live in Laodicea, okay? And you hear this author writing about, I wish you were either hot or cold. And you know everything that's going on in your area, and you know the hot springs of Hierapolis, and you know about the cold water of Colossae, and then it says, if you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth, and instead, you are lukewarm. Well, what do we know about Laodicea? In fact, if you just Google search Laodicea right now and go to images, a lot of the first images that'll pop up will be images like this. Because Laodicea was known for having an aqueduct system that was very advanced for their days. And what they tried to do is they didn't have a whole lot of really good water that was an option to them. So they said, let's pipe in water from Hierapolis. It's just 6 miles away. It's up on a mountainside, so we can run that water down. And we're going to bring their water to us. We're going to use what they have for our city. What they didn't know is as that hot water ran that great distance, what probably happened to the water? It cooled down, right? And it became lukewarm. And also because of the mineral content, it would clog up the pipes. And you can see the layers of sediment that ended up clogging these pipes. And Laodicea was known for having lukewarm water that if you drank it, it would make you sick. So again, imagine you're the church in Laodicea, and you get this letter. And Paul is saying, you know what God says to you as a city? I wish you were hot, or I wish you were cold, but instead you're lukewarm, just like the water of your city. If you stay that way, God is going to spit you out of his mouth. Now again, for me, what I'm hearing in this is I'm hearing something different than I wish you were on fire for God, or I wish you were running away from God, but instead you're kind of in the middle. No. John is saying something completely different. And I think it's something that speaks to us. So let's go back and let's read that one more time, kind of knowing this context. I know what you're doing, and I know you aren't cold or hot. I wish you were either one or the other, but you are lukewarm, you aren't hot or cold, so I am going to spit you out of my mouth. They're not hot, they're not cold, they're lukewarm. So I want us to go back for a moment to the first question that we asked at the beginning of the series. What is the point of the church? What are we supposed to do? What does the church do? The point of the church is to do the work of the church. See, the point of church isn't just this. To come, to sit down, to listen to some guy talk, to listen to some music, and then to go home and just repeat it a week later. This isn't the point of church. The point of church is what happens from now until next Sunday. It happens on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. And we do the work of the church. So in light of that, if we're supposed to do the work of the church, the next question is, well then, what is the church supposed to do? What is that work? And I think the best thing that we can do is we can look at the guy that we're trying to model our lives after. We can look at Jesus. Jesus came not to be served, but instead to serve. Jesus, on the night he was betrayed and I mean, one of the last acts that he did for his followers, he gathered them together, and he knows this is one of the last moments he has with them. What does he do? He takes on the form of a servant, wraps a towel around his waist, and he gets on his knees and he washes their feet. He serves them. That's something that a house servant should usually do, but instead we find Jesus on his knees serving the people he's called to. So what is it that we're supposed to do? I would say, what is it that the church of Laodicea wasn't doing? What is John getting at? John's saying, you know what, Hierapolis, they have a purpose. They bring health and healing with their hot springs. And Colossae, they have a purpose. They're refreshing, reinvigorating. Their cold water does something. But you, Laodicea, you're not doing anything. I know what you used to do. Now you're lukewarm. You're not hot, not healing people. You're not bringing health, and you're not cold. You're not refreshing. You're just showing up. And that's not enough, because that's not what the church is called to do. The church is called to serve. And Icon Church, I want you to get this. We're going to be moving into this building, and more people are going to be showing up. In the same way that I looked at 20 to 25 people when we were meeting in my apartment living room, or we were meeting in the tap room, as I looked them in the eyes and said, guys, this is it. It is our job to serve and to love those people that are going to walk in those doors. In the same way, now I look at a new launch team, and I look at every single one of you, and I say, guys, it is your job to serve those people that are going to come. And again, if you're a guest here, hey, you just get to sit back and listen to what church is supposed to be about. It's not about just showing up and singing some songs. It's not about just listening to some person talk and going outside and doing nothing different. We're supposed to serve our community. We love them. And it's that. Maybe we're refreshing. Maybe God has given you some gift, and you can refresh some people and serve some people in that way, or you can bring health and healing to someone. Someone comes in broken, and you can show them love and acceptance, and that's going to heal their heart. Don't be lukewarm. Don't just show up and exist. That isn't the point. So you know what, Icon Church? We need you. We need you. We can't move into this building without every single person in this room. We can't. We will fall on our face, and we've taken this giant leap of faith. And the reason I've been able to say, you know what, we're going to do this as a church is because I believe that every single one of us are capable of stepping up to the plate. And I believe God is calling every single one of you. Again, if you're a regular here at Icon Church, I believe God is telling you it's time. It's time you step up and you serve. So here's what we're going to do. The reason this is so important, one, I believe more people are going to come. And two, because on September 18th, we're going to have a grand opening, and we're going to have two services. We're going to have a service at 9:30 and a service at 11. And you might go, whoa, but we'll have more space, and are you sure we need to? Here's the thing. We're going to have two services so that we can reach more people. Statistics across the board say people like options. It's just a fact of life. People like having options. You know one reason why people like having options? Because if you have kids, and you say, we're going to go to the 9:30 service, and we'll have the whole day, and then you get the kids ready, and you go, we'll go to 11 o'clock service. At 9:30 business ain't happening. We'll just show up at 11. People like having options. I remember when we offered two services at Texas Old Town, talking to people and said, oh, you guys are going to have an 11 o'clock service. Awesome. I always get off, at a time that I wouldn't be able to make it to church at 10 o'clock, but I could make an 11 o'clock service. We're doing this so that we can reach more people. And you know what? Offering two services, you know what that means? We need more people. We need more people to serve in all the different opportunities we have here at Icon Church. So we're going to ask every single person to serve one and attend one. I want all of you to serve one service and attend a service. That you're out there serving in whatever capacity, whether it's in kids or the parking lot or host team or in whatever capacity. So you're serving at one service, and then you come and you just get to attend one. That instead of trying to, you're working with the kids and maybe try to catch up on the service, midweek, or you're out in the parking lot, so you miss all of the worship, all the songs, and you come in and you got to leave early to get back out into the parking lot, so you miss the end of the message. No. You just serve one service, and then you attend one. And here's what you might be thinking. Like, whoa, like he wants us to lead a small group and he wants us to serve one service. So he wants us to be consistent on Sundays, not like every third or fourth week. Let's get honest. You know, he wants us to be consistent and to like go to 2 services. Yeah. You know why? You know why I don't like pull punches? I go, you know, maybe every third Sunday or every fourth. You know why? Because people matter, and people are going to show up for the first time every single Sunday, and you're the new launch team. So you know what? It's on you. It's on us to actually do the work of the church, because those people matter to God. And if they matter to God, they better matter to you, because that's why we exist. So absolutely, I'm asking every person to serve one, to attend one. You might be sitting there, you might go, well, I don't know where to serve. I don't know what I can do. I don't know the tech stuff like Joel. Like, I wouldn't know the first thing. Dan would be in trouble every week, you know? Like, I don't know how. Here's the thing. There's this interesting story that happens one of the very first leaders of Israel. And God challenges him to lead in this large capacity. And he goes back to God and he makes excuses to God. And he's like, I can't lead in that way. Like, I'm not a good talker. I can't do that. And he's making these excuses. And God asks him this interesting question. He says, what's in your hand? This guy's a shepherd, so he's got a staff in his hand, and he's like, a stick. And God tells him to throw it on the ground. He starts performing miracles, and he says, I'm going to use that. And that staff is going to be used to do mighty things. In the same way, I want to ask you, what's in your hand? What is it that you already do? What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you already have some capabilities and some gifts in? What are some things that you can say, you know what, I actually can play an instrument. Maybe you're going to serve on the worship team. You know what, I can't do a whole lot. I can smile. I can talk to people. I can shake hands. I love meeting people. We need you on the host team. You know, I'm a fool, and I'm crazy and silly. You know what, we need you in the kids area. E-Kids needs some fools, right? Like, we need some people that know how to have fun and work in that capacity. We need that. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask every single one of you to sign up and volunteer. And I know I'm asking for a lot these past few weeks, and you know what? I really don't care that much. Because, again, people matter, and we've got to. So I want everyone to do something. In your bulletin, you've got a little volunteer card. And I want you to take that out, and I want you to look at it right now, because I want to give you a few areas that you could volunteer. Listen, our host team, first and foremost, give it up for our hosts. We got an awesome host team. They're actually still serving. Here in a moment, they're going to be doing something. Man, they're the ones that they're greeting people. They're answering questions. They're helping direct people. Listen, in a new, bigger building, it might be a little confusing where kids go. So our host team, they're helping direct people in different areas. They're greeting people. They help with collecting the offering. Sometimes, like today, they're going to be collecting cards in the back. So that's some of the things that the host team does. Now, I want to be awesome. We've got an incredible host team. And we've got such an incredible host team right now because there's so many amazing college students that say, I love to meet people. I'll greet people. I'll shake some hands. And we are forever indebted to them, and we need them, okay? But at the same time, if you show up and you've got kids or you've got grandkids, and I've talked to some of you that have said this, so I know this happens, and you show up, and then you see all these college students everywhere, and it's only college students greeting you. You sit down, and it's college students coming down. You're like, is this church for me? Like, am I too old? Am I going to get carded here in a moment, but like on the other side of things? We need some of you with kids and with grandkids. I'm not saying old people, but we need some of you with children, right? Like, we need some people my age and that will sign up and be on the host team and greet people so that there's a variety of people. When people come in, they go, oh, wow, there's all different kinds of people here. This must be a church I'm welcome to. So sign up for host team if that's you. Another thing is parking lot. Parking lot's huge to me. In fact, before I became the lead pastor of this church, I was on staff at a church, and you know what team I ran? I ran the parking lot team for years. And that was in northern Illinois, and it's cold up there, like really, really cold. It's so important. You know what? The sermon starts in the parking lot because it's the first face people see. In fact, there's been studies that have been done that most people make up their mind if they're going to come back to that church or not before they ever walk in the doors. Were things clear? Did I feel welcome? Was there a place for me to park? And you know what? We've got more space than we have parking spaces. Okay, so parking is going to get tricky. We're going to have to start parking people, telling people where to park. That's something our parking team doesn't currently do. So if you can wave at people and smile and direct people into a parking spot, you can be on the parking team. Another thing that you could do is productions. Productions, they're the people running sound and tech and slides and all of those things. If you're the kind of person, if you notice, like, if I point at the screen and the slide doesn't pop up and you're like, where's that slide at? Where's that slide at? We need you on the productions team. That might be something in your hand that you're passionate about. If you notice a lighting cue or a sound thing, or you know what, maybe God has given you a gift to notice those things, and that's something in your hand that he wants to use. Another area I talked about a moment ago is our kids team. I'm passionate about this, one, because I have kids, but two, I don't look at e-kids as like the church of tomorrow. What they're doing over there isn't babysitting your kids so you can be at real church. That's real church that's happening over there. I can attest to that because I've talked to my kids. And I've served in the kids' church before. And I know that life change can happen there. And I've heard kids come out of there praying for their friends at school. I've talked to my children as they've been depressed that all their friends are Christians. And so what are they going to do at school because they can't share Jesus? Listen, I've had those conversations. And we need consistency. That's one of the main reasons that we're asking you to serve one and attend one. Because we want the children of Icon Church to have consistent volunteers investing in their life. We don't want it to be one person one week and somebody else next week, because really all they're doing is filling a hole. No, we want people in there that say, I am committed to this grade. I can tell you, I started serving in kids' church as soon as I got out of kids' church. I started working with younger kids, and then I started with a group of third graders and went all the way up through sixth grade with that group. And to this day, I'm still connected to those many of those children. We need people that will commit and say, you know what, I'll be there. I'll be consistent in those kids' lives. Another area that we need is admin team. Both admin team and facilities, there's opportunities to serve during the week. So maybe Sunday doesn't work for you, but you can come. Admin team is everything from maybe helping to put together these bulletins, send out mailers, maybe even help answering phones as people call into the church. Now that you have a building, people can like show up at it. It's this crazy thing. Like up till now when people come, they're like, so where's your church at? And I'm like, I'm in like an office building right now or a coffee shop. Like that's where we are. Now we have a building. People might actually show up at it. Go figure. So we might need people helping, serving in a reception desk or something to that capacity. So there's lots of opportunities for the admin team and the facilities team. Listen, this is a 20,000 square foot building. We have to clean 20,000 square feet every single week. If you have a home, you know, imagine 20,000 square feet. So we're going to need help on the facility side to maybe clean. I talked to somebody, they came up to me when we first announced the building, and they said, I love to clean. If I could come in for a couple hours every single week and clean, sign me up. I said, signed up, done. Like, say no more. Some of you, I know, my wife's one of them, like cleaning is something that like, it's like your happy place, right? Like you just kind of have to get things clean. Listen, we could use you on the facilities team in that capacity. Another thing there could be helping build some stage sets, some props or different things happening there. Two more things I want to touch on. One, security team, especially if you have a background in law enforcement, we could really use you. Again, now that we have a facility, we're becoming more public. We want to be wise with our children and with our services and provide a safe environment. So if that's you, we could use you on the security team. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, coffee and donuts. I know, you guys have been thinking about this for a while. We will have coffee and donuts, and early on, we'll need someone that can pick up said donuts and brew said coffee. But eventually, we're going to build out this whole coffee shop area, complete with espresso machines and making drinks. And so maybe you've been a barista before and you have some experience there. We could use you on the coffee and donuts team. So those are just a few areas. So what you're doing right now is you're checking a box or two, right? Because we're all on board for this. Every single one of us are going, yes, I am on the launch team. Again, if you're a guest here, I'll even let you volunteer. So every person, we're going to be checking this and putting our name and phone number and information on here because we're all going to serve. If you're already serving, you can go ahead and fill that out too to just fake people out and make them think like more people are signing up, so it like peer pressures them. So feel free to do that. The last thing I want to let you know about, we're going to go ahead and skip to the very last slide. I want to let you know about something that we announced at the beginning, and that is our team night. The team night's happening Thursday, August 25th at 7 o'clock. We are offering childcare. We decided to do that because I know that many of you couldn't come if we weren't. So our kids team is amazing. They're making it happen. This is happening at our building, okay? So pretty awesome. You'll get to check out the building if we're not already in it. So a week from this Thursday, I believe, is the 25th. Regardless, it is the 25th at 7 o'clock at our church building, 400 Old Post Road up in Kyle off of Highway 150. please come to this. This is really important. As you're checking this box, that's something that we're going to ask you to come to, because it'll give us an opportunity to share the vision of volunteering for the whole church, and then also break off into our teams. For instance, if you're a host team, you need to know where things are. So we'll help show you where those things are. Parking lot team will go out and talk about parking lot, where everyone's going to park, that sort of thing. So this is really, really important. So please sign up right now to volunteer, and then also be here for the team night on August 25th. It's going to be a really, really fun evening. We're going to do these maybe quarterly, just to kind of get together in our volunteer teams and connect. So this will be our very first one. So please don't miss it. Guys, I want to thank you so much. Here's why I'm so excited. When I was with those pastors this past week from all around the country talking about this incredible opportunity, they just could not believe what God has done. I can't stress enough how much this doesn't happen. When you go to the facility, if you haven't seen it yet, you're going to be blown away. If you went in during the construction process, seeing it completely finished, it's amazing. God has been so incredibly gracious. I can't stress how big of a thing he's given us. And if he's given us this big of a thing, a lot's going to be expected of us. And I'm asking every single one of you to come along, to step up to the plate, to engage, and to do what the church does, and to serve. Amen? Amen. I'm going to close in prayer. The host team is going to be in the back with buckets. Drop your volunteer card in the buckets on your way out, and let's pray. God, I just thank you so much for all that you do. God, we thank you for who you are. God, we thank you for this gift you've given us. Lord, we want to be good stewards of it. God, we don't want to waste this gift. God, we don't want to belittle this gift. We want to make the most of it. We want to leverage it for your kingdom's sake. God, we are doing this to reach more people that are far from you. God, they are your kids. God, we want to show them the way of Jesus. So God, I pray that you would give us the grace, that you would challenge people in this room to step up to the plate and to serve in some capacity. I believe every person here is capable of serving in some capacity. And I pray that you would speak to people, challenge us. Jesus, may we be good stewards of this gift. Where we pray these things in your name. And everybody said, amen.